All right. Looks like everybody's on here. What's up? How is everyone? Let's get started with this stream. This is going to be just a standard gathering stream. We're going to run around in a whole lot of circles, gather a whole lot of materials, and while we're doing that, we're going to be discussing something that's been going on with the Ashes of Creation Alpha. Specifically, Asmongold apparently streamed earlier today or yesterday. And everybody's been up in a huff today because the GM Steven, or the creative director or CEO or whatever he is of Intrepid Studios, Steven, apparently dropped a message on the game saying that anybody who was griefing Asmongold was going to get a ban from the alpha. And so because it's such a hot topic, maybe we should talk a little bit about it. Talk about how games should be mitigating stuff like that. Talk about how streamers should be reacting to things like stream sniping and griefing, and what can be done to stop griefing. Why is it such a problem? Why is it that every single PvP MMO ever made is a huge problem with people going out of their way to attempt to ruin the gameplay of others, and then using the idea that, well, it's something that I can do, so it's something that I'm allowed to do, as sort of the catch-all, haha, I can do what I want, it's a video game, it's here for enjoyment, and I'm having fun, so it's an acceptable activity. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of that, and see if we can't find a place where people can play the game however they want without ruining the game for everyone else. Because I do think that griefing is an extremely bad practice. And I do think that the people who go out of their way to ruin the fun, especially repeatedly ruin the fun of other players over and over and over again, are bad players. You know, I don't want them in games with me. I don't want them playing games with me, but it's difficult to define the line. It's difficult to draw the line. It's difficult to consistently mediate these issues in the same way, using the same rules for every single person. Right? There's a lot of gray area in there where what's griefing one time might not be griefing in a very specific other situation. And so it's extremely difficult to prevent that from happening and to keep everyone happy, right? Because what some people think is griefing, some other people don't. And so if you don't have well-defined ideas of what griefing is, right? If the game system itself isn't stopping people from engaging in those activities, then it becomes very difficult to prevent those activities and to keep your audience happy. Yeah, so that's kind of just going to be our topic for discussion today. Looks like I'm already flagged up for faction warfare, so I'm going to go north to east 1 and go over to that zone over there. Actually, let's take a little. I don't want to go to this zone. Right, let's see. North 1 to east 1. Yeah, I don't want to go here. I think I might want to go here. Or maybe here. Let's just go north 3. Gonna take us a little longer, but I don't like that tier 4 zone. It doesn't have enough tier 4 resources, and I think I'll probably find more resources in that yellow zone. I also may find more enemies, so I may get ganked, but that's neither really here nor there. So the first thing that I want to discuss is the responsibility of preventing griefing. There are, as I see it, there are 3 different things, 3 different paths that we could take. There is the path where the game itself, the game systems themselves, specifically prevent any prohibited activities, right? So if you don't want people to be able to repeatedly kill the same person over and over and over again, then you need to have a game system in place that prohibits a single player from being killed over and over and over again. Now, I don't know how you do that. Give them protection, give them whatever. Prevent them from dying, prevent them from being able to be PvP'd unless they flag for PvP. I don't know what the solution there is. But one of the options is to make it so that prohibited activities cannot happen. So if you don't want people to be able to stream snipe, then find a way for them to not be able to kill streamers. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is there. Honestly, I think the solution for stream sniping is just on the streamer. If you don't want people to stream snipe you, you're just going to have to put a delay in your stream. And there's not really any other option there. Because that's just what's going to happen. And reporting it is all well and good. Getting people banned for reporting it is all well and good. But then you fall into kind of a gray area that we're going to talk about here in a little while for some other stuff anyway. And it's just not going to be great. The second option is to outline very, very specifically in the terms of service for your game, or in the game rules, in the tutorial, or something, but to outline very, very specifically. Whoops. Oh, I'm stupid. I forgot to pick up my pick. Oh well, I'll go back. The second option is to outline very, very specifically in the terms of service, or in the game rules, or somewhere, what constitutes griefing and what doesn't, right? How many times can you kill a person? What activities can that person be engaging in when you kill them? What kind of level differences are you allowed to kill people at? Right? You're going to have to go through it. You're going to have to come up with every single possible situation that can possibly occur based on the systems that are in your game. Oops. And then decide, when is it griefing and when is it fair play? And then you're going to have to stick to that extremely strictly. Because if your game systems don't specifically outline what you can and can't do, and don't prevent you from doing any prohibited activities, and instead you rely on terms of service and moderation to prevent players from doing certain things, then the problem that you run into is you're betraying your players who are staying well into the accepted practice, right? So there's a line where something is acceptable and something isn't. For example, in the terms of service, you might say something like, it's considered griefing to repeatedly kill a player over and over again, preventing them from accessing content. Okay, that's fairly vague. But you don't want to be too specific about it, because if you say it's griefing if you kill a player 3 times, preventing them from accessing content, 3 times within 30 minutes to prevent them from accessing content, then somebody will go and kill that player twice and wait for 30 minutes, and then kill that player twice and wait for 30 minutes, and then kill that player twice and then wait for 30 minutes, which is still kind of griefing, but you've specifically laid out what the rules are. So you make it a little vague so that you leave room for malicious intent. But the problem with that is that if you just put in there repeatedly killing a player over and over again to prevent them from accessing content. And then 2 cases where players were killed multiple times while accessing content go to your moderators. And in both cases, the players were killed 5 times within the same span of time. And in one of those cases, somebody is given a ban. And in another one of those cases, somebody is not given a ban. Then you have betrayed all of your players who only ever killed anybody once or twice by allowing a person to get an advantage by killing a player 5 times. Right? Because they've denied them access to content at that point. So if you have a PvP game where, you know, resources and stuff like that are important to the growth of your faction or your guild or whatever, then denying people access to content and to resources is a viable way to stop that enemy faction from growing and becoming more powerful. And so all of the players who were trying really hard to absolutely stick to what the rules were saying, and so they only ever killed a person 1 time, were actually at a disadvantage because you didn't set clear boundaries and you don't have a clear idea of what the rules are. And so ultimately the rules are, however much you can get away with, that's what's acceptable. And at any point we can decide that it's not acceptable and you can get banned. So maybe you kill somebody 5 times today, you kill them 5 times tomorrow, and then the day after that you kill them 5 times and oh, that time you got banned. And so it creates this really terrible system where the people who are in... Hey, yo, what's up? How are you today, Quizza? How'd your run go? I didn't realize there'd be tier 6 ore here. Holy snap. Oh, this is a tier 6 zone. Okay. I didn't realize that there were tier 6 zones in the yellow. That's weird. Somebody is harvesting the shiznit out of it too. Holy snap. Good. Good. I'm glad. Well, I'm going to go one more forward and I'm going to get into tier 5 zone because I don't actually want to be in a tier 6 zone. Too many tier 6 resources. Just falling asleep, so I'll see you later. Yep. Have a good one. So anyway, you start to betray any of your players who are staying well within the expectation of the rules by allowing some players to skirt those rules and get a small advantage. And the more gray area rules you have, the more of an advantage a player can get by living inside of those gray areas. And while that sounds intriguing, it's really not. Right? There are very specific rules in sports. There are very specific rules in basically everything we do. And they help to create a system that is equal to everyone. And working within that system is how you succeed. Now, that takes us to our third option. And I think the second best option. Our third option is that if you can't create definitive rules on when something is acceptable and when it's not, then it just has to be a free-for-all. Right? If you can't consistently find a way to keep people from not killing someone 5 times in a row in the specific situations where you don't want them to be able to, then you just have to say, okay, killing somebody is always acceptable. Kill them 10 times in a row, kill them 20 times in a row, kill them 30 times in a row, whatever you want. And it'll just have to be up to the players to enforce some sort of rules by banding together and griefing the people who are doing the griefing. Now, this isn't a great solution because it's really hard to get a random group of players to agree and to try and impose any sort of rule on more groups of players. And it leads to a lot of in-game chaos and strife. And it's a really bad idea, and it's not going to work. But it is better than allowing some players to get an advantage over others by skirting the rules when those players are trying to follow the rules. Because that just leads to a feeling of betrayal, and your players will just leave. So the best option is obviously to make it so that your in-game systems don't allow for activities that you don't want to allow for. At least, that's what I think. And if you can't create an in-game system that does it, then you either have to not have that activity possible at all, or it has to be a free-for-all. So if you can't set up in-game systems that prevent players from standing at a resource node and killing anybody who comes near that resource node 100 times, then you simply have to allow killing people 100 times. Because if instead you say, okay, well, moderators will take it on a per case basis, right? And I go and I get killed 5 times, and the person who killed me doesn't get banned. But then I go kill somebody 5 times, and then I do get banned. That feels horrible. And that's not right. That's absolutely the worst system you could have. What I'm looking for right now is the tier 4 resources. I'm going to try and find me a good spot to harvest up tier 4 resources because I'm only in tier 5. I don't really want to harvest tier 5 resources because the attack speed is slow. And when the attack speed is slow, you just end up getting less XP per time because I've already leveled up my tier 4 quite a ways. Focusing on one tier is going to ultimately gain you more XP because your one tier will level up faster. And leveling up your tier of gathering, right, like your tier 4, gives you increased gather speeds and increased yield. And increased yield gives you increased yield also gives you increased fame for gathering. But it's important to just stick to one. You could probably get away with, once you get to tier 5, just sticking to tier 5, and you'd probably be okay because you wouldn't have gotten too far into tier 4, and so you'd make that up fairly quickly. But if you get to tier 6 and then start exclusively gathering tier 6, your overall XP rate is going to reduce pretty significantly, because by the time you get to tier 6, you're going to have, you know, maybe 20, 25 in your tier 4 mining, and that's just too much lost value, too much lost fame. Ooh.
In life,
Little bossy mob.
torture Albion. In death, you be dead.
Am I not going to be able to kill this thing? Well, doo-doo. For some reason, my clicks were getting off and I wasn't able to move very well. I think I need to hit a button where I can, like, click through enemies or something. I don't know. My settings might be a little off. I'm going to get this enemy, though. It's going to happen.
In life, you torture Albion. In death, you be dead.
There we go. Jeez Louise. Can't believe that took me so long. Nice. Alright, let's keep going here. See if we can't find a little action. I want action tonight. Satisfaction. These two little rocks right here. Pretty good for the old resources. Oops. You know what I forgot to do? Was eat my pork pie. Hey, we're up to level 11 on the old iron ore. So I say this pretty much every time I do one of these gather streams, but it's important to know that the way gathering and gather fame works in this game is when you have a percentage yield, that percentage yield is actually a percent chance to double your yield. So every time I'm gathering from one of these iron nodes, I'm gathering two iron ore. And if you look here, my ore yield, I have a plus 30.5% ore yield. What that means is that I have a 30.5% chance. Oh, this one says 45 now because I got my tool in. But that's specifically for my iron ore, right? Each one of them breaks down. So it's about having a chance to gather specifically iron ore. And so when I have that chance, what it'll do is it'll double my ore yield. So instead of getting 2, I'll get 4. You see I got gather bonus 2 iron ore. When that happens, you'll notice that I get more fame. So I normally get 15 fame. If I hit that double, which I should get about half of the time, then I'll hit 30 fame instead. And you can get it above 100%, which means you can get a guarantee. See, there it is, 30 fame. So you can get a guarantee to get 2 times the ore with a chance to get 3 times. When that happens, you'll get 3 times the fame. And that happens on your enchanted nodes and everything. And your enchanted nodes are a multiplier sort of in the same way. So they multiply on top of each other. So if you gather a 4.1 node, it has way more XP or way more fame than a 4.0 node, and then you again double it if you trigger the double yield. So enchanted nodes are actually really valuable to leveling up your gathering professions. And then of course your bonus yield from... I'm going to get this enchanted node. Even though I'm not really here for tier 5s, can't pass up the tier 5 enchanted nodes. But the enchanted nodes are really important for leveling up your gathering. And so is your yield, which is why you should always be wearing your yield, your gathering equipment. And it's why specifically target gathering a single resource is faster than gathering all the resources, right? Like I could be out here gathering fiber and stone as well. And if I had really maxed out all of my gatherings, then I would totally have, you know, a hammer and stuff out here with me. Actually, I do have a hammer and stuff out here with me. And I would gather those up, but it's much less efficient for me to level those. And so it's sort of wasting some time to do that when I could just be gathering these iron nodes. So narrowing down your focus as much as possible is pretty much always going to be faster. You know, if you narrow down your focus between getting fame for combat or getting fame for gathering, that's faster. Whenever you do both of those things together, you slow yourself down. Getting fame for just a specific type of gathering makes everything faster. You know, if you're out for currency, then just going out for currency makes things faster. The more things you don't do, the better you do the things you do. If you could at all keep up with that sentence. Yeah, I'm also very interested to hear what anybody else thinks about the situation in Ashes of Creation when Asmon tried to play and got super ripped on. And how do you feel about lesser versions of that, right? Because that's a pretty extreme case. Asmon is like the biggest MMO streamer. So naturally, that stuff is just going to be extremely out of control in and around his community. You know, for example, somebody like me, like nobody's stream sniping me ever. So it doesn't really affect me at all at this point in my streaming. But stuff like that can also affect just regular non-streamer players, right? Who are just people at home playing video games. Griefing is a real thing for them. Because you get players who are extremely dedicated to games and who play endless numbers of hours. And those people are significantly stronger than players who are a little more casual. And those stronger players like to throw their weight around. They like to covet resources. They like to do a lot of stuff. And so I'm curious what you all think is a good solution. We obviously don't want to take away PvP, right? And we don't want to take away the potential for things. Because like I was talking about before, if you're in a guild war or in a node war in Ashes of Creation, or a guild war here in Albion Online, you don't want to not be able to kill your opponent when they're gathering resources, right? Because destroying supply lines and keeping your enemies from being able to grow more powerful through resource acquisition is a great strategy for winning conflict. And so if you can't do that, then you're ultimately limiting the strategies that can be employed to win a conflict. And sandbox MMOs are about making things possible. And so I would hate to see Ashes go the route of, forcing people to flag if they want a PvP or something like that, because obviously, I wonder if I can do anything in this group. Oh no, I don't have my regular set on, never mind. I had my regular set of gear with me. Maybe. Probably not. But you don't want to have like a system where you have to flag to PvP, because then when you're out doing stuff like gathering resources, then obviously you're not going to flag. New World tried to overcome this by giving you a bonus to your luck while you were gathering, so that you got more, Cinnabar or whatever, if you were gathering Orichalcum, if you were flagged. But you were able to get enough luck, you were able to get enough of those resources that it wasn't enough of a bonus to make you want to flag, because you sort of had to forego your bonuses from your gathering gear so that you could be as strong as possible, so that you could win the PvP fights, so that you could keep gathering. So you actually ended up with more gathering luck if you just wore gathering gear. And so it sort of fell short as a solution. I think a solution like that could work really well. And we talked a couple of days ago. The topic of conversation was about incentives. And so I think that's sort of the solution here, is that you have to create a system that is just an absolute free-for-all, but then you have to incentivize the right types of play. So, you have to reduce what you can gain from killing a player who's drastically weaker than you, for example. So in Ashes of Creation, gathering is going to be a thing. And when you're out gathering, you're always under threat of being attacked. Right? It's an open world PvP. Even if you don't flag for PvP, you can be killed. Now, if you're not flagged and somebody kills you, then they do become corrupted, and that's a negative for them. But if they kill you, they do gain resources from you. Right? You drop a portion of your resources. So maybe implementing a system where the larger the level disparity, the less resources you drop might be a good idea. So, if a level 50 kills a level 5, maybe they don't drop any resources. And that way you prevent at least really, really high level players from griefing lower level players. Or maybe you do it like any more than 10 levels ahead. Right, so if you're more than 10 levels above me, if you kill me, I don't drop anything. I get to keep all my stuff. I just, resurrect at whatever the nearest resurrection point is. And that way, while you can still kill me to try to deny me access to resources, you can't take my resources. I don't lose anything. So that extreme disparity means that just killing me over and over again, for the sake of taking my resources or whatever, starts to become less and less enticing, because you don't really get anything for it. Another thing could be, we have the corruption system, which I think is going to be a great deterrent to a lot of griefing. It's not working right now in the alpha because, it's an alpha, so it doesn't really matter if you get corruption, lose items or whatever. Nobody really has any good items at this point. So again, I think that's leading to an extreme version of the griefing that we're seeing, where people just don't have any reason to care. Right? These characters are going to be destroyed at some point, so whatever, do whatever we want. And then they disguise it as like, oh, we're testing the system. Oh, we're making it known that this is something you can do so that they'll change things or whatever. But that is certainly contributing, I'm sure, to how many people feel like they're just getting killed all the time. And to how little repercussion there feels like there is. But I don't think it needs to be like a negative, right? It doesn't have to be a punishment so much as it needs to be a lack of benefit, because everything in a game sort of benefits you, right? Your goal as a player is to grow your wealth, grow your character's strength, do all of those things, gain XP, make your character stronger. And we optimize as gamers to always be doing activities that are gaining us the most of whatever we're trying to get. And so we naturally sort of gravitate away from activities that can't benefit us. And so if instead of incurring some sort of punishment for doing something, if you just simply didn't get anything for it, then players just wouldn't do it. At least most players. You're always going to have players who step way outside of that. But if you make something unenticing enough, the number of players who just do it anyway will be small enough that the community could probably handle them. Right? You get enough people who are just griefing people for the sake of griefing people, or you get somebody who's griefing people for the sake of griefing people often enough with the corruption system that AOC is going to have, and then the community just goes and kills that person over and over again until they stop or quit. And then you get rid of those people without Intrepid Studios having to do anything. So the corruption system, I think, is going to be good enough to prevent griefing, as long as Intrepid also makes griefing unappealing in situations where it's egregious. So, killing a person a lot of times in a small window nets you less of their resources. Killing a person who's extremely low tier compared to you nets you less resources. What are some other things that are kind of obnoxious that, while we want them to be possible in some very specific situations, and that could be the other thing, is, we have node and guild wars in Ashes of Creation. And so maybe you could remove some of these restrictions in those node and guild war situations, because you want to be able to just murder everybody in another node all willy-nilly. So, when you're just randomly killing somebody in a node who's 10 levels below you, maybe they don't drop anything. But if the node that you're a citizen of is at war with this other node, and they're 10 levels below you, then the drop rate is normal. If your drop rate progressively reduces when you kill the same person over and over and over again, that's great. But then if your guild is at war with that guild, then killing that person over and over and over again doesn't cause a reduction in the drop rate of their items. And so you promote using the in-game systems for formal conflict to drive that. And then when people are buttheads, and just everybody gets together and beats the snot out of them. I mean, it happened to me in this game just the other day. I didn't realize that I wasn't faction flagged. I was just straight up PvP flagged. So I kept seeing people that I was able to attack. And I thought that they were just people from enemy factions. I was wrong. They were just regular old people that I was just attacking. And they were just trying to gather and stuff, and I was just attacking. And I didn't realize, but everybody kept killing me. I kept getting attacked by a bunch of people who I thought were in my faction, and so I couldn't figure out why my own faction was able to attack me. And they just came and started whooping my butt every time I went out of the city. Eventually I figured it out and I stopped flagging and started faction flagging. And, you know, not killing my own faction. It was a totally honest mistake. But it didn't take very long at all for people to realize that I was just PvP flagged and attacking people. Just to start coming to their defense and kicking my butt. So there's always opportunity for stuff like that, and as long as you make the systems in such a way that only a very few number of people are going to want to step outside of the social norm and be jerks, then the community can just handle those handful of people, right? You don't even have to take any moderator action against them. And in fact, I think you shouldn't take any moderator action against them, because having those people there, I think, ultimately improves the quality of the community for everyone else. Because having somebody to collectively hate makes everybody else much closer. And so I think leaving those people in the game, as long as you have systems that, you know, dissuade most people from doing that stuff, is totally fine. Because we'll all get together and we'll just KOS this person over and over and over again until they come out and give their apology and promise to never do it again, and then prove that they won't do it anymore. And if they do it, then we'll just start killing them again. So I think a combination of sort of tribal justice and good game systems is probably sufficient to prevent those things from happening. And Intrepid is moving in that direction. You know, they have the corruption system, they have the guild and node war system so that you can just kill anybody that you want from a different guild or node when you're at a formal war with those people. You know, they're creating systems to help create formal conflict. And so now I think they need to create systems to further dissuade people from egregious versions of informal conflict. And the same thing is true of Albion Online, right? And I should probably talk a little bit about Albion because we're playing it. I am really just waiting for AOC, though, which is going to be years and years and years. But the same thing can be said of Albion Online, right? So in open world PvP, anybody of any tier can attack anybody of any tier. And on the surface, that seems like a really big positive for lower tier players, right? Because it seems like I have this opportunity where if I get lucky, I could kill a higher tier player and make millions and millions of silver. Ooh, I feel like we have to go in this, even though I've got my mining gear on. So I'm not really ready in any way. I wish that I had my other gear with me. I'm going to go in here and we're going to do this. Because it's still a tier 5 zone. All of these, oh no. These enemies are going to be tier 7, okay. So you can still only get tier 5 resources in these. But they have a much higher chance. Oh, I wish I had tier 5 logging. They have a much higher chance of being enchanted and having better enchantments. So I'm going to run around and look for some enchanted resources here. I've got all of my tier 4, all of my gatherings are up to tier 4. So I can gather any tier 4 resource that's enchanted. And I'm gonna. And I can gather any tier 5 enchanted resource for iron, or for ore. Which is really what I'm looking for. I'm only gonna gather enchanteds. I've been talking to myself. Whoops. Wonder how long that's been going on. Alright, well, looks like somebody already kind of came down this way. So let's actually head kind of in towards the middle a little. We'll run around in here and see if we can't find some stuff. Like this right here. Um. Boom, 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 boom. And I really thought maybe I was going to be able to get an exceptional resource here. I'm pretty sad. Haven't even seen one that somebody else took. If you kill an enemy like that, it stays yours for quite a while. So if there's another node right next to it, always gather your enemy last. Somebody can't come and swoop it from you. Because nobody wants to get swooped. It ain't no fun. I think I might actually start thinking about trying to find a guild to join. Something a little more casual. With some peeps, doing some content, having some fun. Certainly don't want to get all wrapped up in politics and stuff, but people doing Avalonian roads or something could be a good time. Come on now, just give me literally any exceptional resource that I can gather. That's all I want out of this. Just one exceptional node. Preferably 5.3 iron, or 5.3 titanium. But I'll take 5.3 or 4.3 anything. Okay, well, you're in my way. I didn't want to have to do this. You made me. Well, this is the most annoying node I've ever gathered. Jeez Louise. Nice. Actually got quite a bit of hemp in this one. Which, I mean, I'm not particularly fond of hemp in any way, but been good. I'm gonna keep running around and see if I can't find, like, maybe another legendary wisp. Because if I can, then I'll just come in and keep gathering up enchanted resources. But if I can't find another really high tier wisp, either epic or legendary, then I'll just let it kick me out. And go back to gathering in the regular area. I can't get that tier 5 point something plant. I was all excited there for a second. Stupid not having tier 5. How close am I on that? Do I have enough? Nope, not quite enough learning points. If I get a couple more learning points and then I can. And then I'll tier up my fiber to 5. I think fiber and ore are probably my two favorite things to gather. I don't know why I have favorite gatherables. They basically all shake out the same way. But I do. I very much prefer ore to everything else. Ooh, there's the epic. Nice. This is not fast fame, but I think it is more currency than just running around gathering up iron. Let's kind of take a peek here. This is 11. All that iron I gathered was 44. We've already got 6 there, 12. So that's 20 right there. These aren't worth squat. These aren't really worth squat. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm not going faster this way with the currency. Who knows? Nobody knows. Although if I hit... What tier are these? 6? Okay. So we're down a tier. But that's fine, because you can still only get up to tier 5 resources in these, so it doesn't really matter. But hopefully we'll find more enchanteds. I like getting enchanted nodes. It makes me happy. Guess we could see if there's any enchanted nodes down here. There's one. It's impressive how much good game design for open world, open-ended sandbox style games comes down to incentives. It's honestly a little bit like a neural network. Right? Because when you're trying to train a neural network to do something, you don't really pilot what to do, right? Because the task can be extremely variable. And the same thing is kind of true in sandbox MMOs, is you're not really telling your players what to do. You're just giving them the key presses that they can press to do certain things. And then, in order to get them to do the things that you want them to do, in the way that you want them to do, you incentivize them by giving them what they want out of the game. So if you create a structure of goals and then reward your players for certain types of gameplay by helping them achieve those goals, then it's very much like structuring an algorithm for a learning network, or a neural network, to get it to learn how to identify a cat picture instead of just calling everything a cat picture, or identify, lots of different types of pictures instead of just classifying everything as a cat. Because ultimately, the way it shakes out is, if you were training a neural network and all you did was tell them that all you need to do is give an answer for what something is, right? Just give the identification for a picture. And that's all we want. Then that neural network would return the exact same response for every picture, because that's the fastest way it can achieve its goal of giving a response. And so the same thing is true for players. You tell a player that their goal is to gain currency or levels or whatever. They're going to take the shortest path. I don't think I can kill this person. They're going to take the shortest path, which is to, find a specific spot, or, kill the same person over and over again if you can get rewards that way, or, they're gonna do whatever achieves that goal the fastest. And so if you want to get them to vary their solution, then you have to give them incentives to do so, either by reducing the incentive over time of some activities, or by increasing the incentive over time of some activities, or by completely removing the incentive to some activities based on some certain parameters. And so a market does that a little bit, right? Supply and demand in a market changes the incentive for gathering certain types of resources. But you could do other things to adjust that incentive. You could reduce the amount of resources that you can gain if an area has been farmed too often. You can do all kinds of stuff. And honestly, it might be interesting to use neural networks to identify what routes players will take. Because bots are really good at optimizing, and collectively gamers are really good at optimizing too. And so we'll get together, you get a couple thousand of us in a video game, and we'll find the fastest way to achieve the goal, right? Whether that goal is leveling, whether that goal is currency, whether that goal is whatever. We will find the optimized way to get to it, and then we'll share that optimized way. And a whole bunch of us will just go do it over and over and over again. And you could probably figure out what that path was going to be if you just gave a neural network the same goal that you give us, and then give it the ability to, interact with all of the systems, and then find out how it's going to do it. I bet you that would work really well. First, it would cheat. I mean, obviously. But, I mean, we cheat too, so. Can you gather that? That's too bad. That actually really interests me. Ooh, why is there a legendary one of these over here? Oh, somebody must have turned it in or something. Hey. It's an enchanted hide. Very easy to drop aggro if you just mount. I killed this horse away from everything else. Or this deer or whatever it is. Away from everything else, and then I jumped on my mount and everything ran away so I could skin it. Oh no. It wasn't somebody turning it in. Somebody got killed with it. Again. Is nobody gonna pick that up? There we go. Somebody got it. And I got some exceptional hemp. That's 40k. What's up? I'm definitely staying right here. This is when I wish that I had an ox. Oops, sorry. Because if I had an ox, then I could have like covered this whole thing up so this person didn't even see it. Now I gotta sit here and just click. So I can try and get this, not let them get it. I don't even know if they have tier 4. They might have tier 5 or 6 or something. Gathering. In which case they're definitely gonna get it. Yeah, that's right. Go away. It was my resource. Unfortunately, this is what optimizing looks like. Sitting here, staring at the same resource node. Like a jackass. Oop, there's my 5-minute warning. I should probably get one more try at this. But I'm just gonna stay here till it kicks me out, just in case. Please let me get it again. Just one time. Oh my gosh. Why are you doing this to me, game? Yo, how is this not spawning again yet? What is going on? I'm so sad. I'm not gonna get another pick here. That sucks. I'm so sad. Why'd you have to do it to me, game? Why did you have to do it to me? Ooh. Nice. This is gonna be worth so much. Make a surprising amount of currency gathering, even at early levels. I almost died. My goodness. Boy, got him. I love these little mini aspect golem things. They're super fun. I'm gonna try and get this golem thing one more time and then probably head back. Why isn't this thing spawning yet? Time to go back.
Buying or selling? My pleasure. Welcome, friend.
All right. Well, I don't really have any more to talk about on a discussion topic today, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody around to discuss it. So I'm probably going to call the gathering stream there. We'll be back again at the regular time tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific for the regular stream, where we're just going to run around, do non-lethal mists, solo dungeons, stuff like that. Do our regular fame farming. And yeah, so thanks everybody for coming by. Thanks for hanging out. I hope everybody has a good night, and I will see you tomorrow morning.